Hi, I'm Bryce Crittenden.
Hi, I'm Caroline Land, and welcome back to EPL's Overdue Finds.
Hey, Caroline, how are you today?
I'm doing well, Bryce. Happy Canada Day.
Yeah, happy Canada Day to you as well. Yeah, it's always fun to we're off work today when you're hearing this, but today we're working hard and trying to bring everybody some quality podcast content.
That's what we always try to do. But on a holiday, if you're listening to this the day it comes out, we like to maybe give you that little something extra.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Caroline, today's episode we're doing something a little bit different. We've kind of been on this streak of episodes where they've been awesome. We've been kind of looking back at a lot of kind of pop culture from like the 80s or 90s.
There are so many anniversaries this year.
This is a ton of anniversaries.
Right.
Yeah, but this episode kind of came about because we've talked about this before. We have like an internal website here at EPL where staff can share different projects that they're working on, and it's always incredible to learn what kind of different people are working on here. But I came across a story that as soon as I read it, I was like, Caroline, we have to do an episode on this. And I'm always amazed by the incredible work that our librarians do here. I've mentioned on the show, I am not a librarian. I work in our marketing department. So it's really cool to kind of get to see some of the behind the scenes stuff that our talented staff get to work on. And I read a story about how we have some staff here who basically our colleagues really started doing some online programming to connect with kids and families in Ukraine, which I thought was amazing when I read about it.
Yeah, it was a story that really looked exciting and heartwarming, and definitely was something we wanted to know more about. So we thought our listeners might like to know a little more as well.
Yeah. And I think everybody's really going to enjoy this one today. And so we've got a couple of guests joining us to talk about this program because they're involved. And first, I want to welcome back to the show. She is the associate manager of our Stanley A. Milner Library and official friend of the show, Nancy Sheng. Welcome back to Overdue Finds. I know it's not a best of the year wrap-up episode, but we're so glad you could join us today for this one.
I am so happy to be here, Bryce and Caroline.
We're happy to have you. You came up recently. We were talking about one of the things that is new at the Stanley A. Milner Library is the Seed Library. And we got to talking about that and remembered when you were talking, I think you had a book about a poison garden. And we were like, well, maybe we'll have to get Nancy on if we talk about the Seed Library.
Absolutely. Although I don't recommend starting a poison garden with our seed library. I'm pretty sure we would not allow those seeds. The seeds are vetted.
There are, but that's the kind of thing we would talk about on an episode about the Seed Library. So yeah, if you haven't checked it out, we'll have some information in our item list about the Seed Library, about what we're talking about, and you can check that out and get ready for what I'm sure will be a really interesting episode that will be probably next year when people are planting stuff. But
yeah, we missed our window now with it being July, but you will hear more about the Seed Library coming up.
Definitely.
And also want to welcome to the show, Caroline. We have another first-time guest. We've been on this role of introducing new staff we're not new staff, but introducing staff to our listeners who haven't been on the show before. And one of those people, she is a library assistant at the Riverbend branch, which is my home branch. Welcome to the show, first-time guest, Maria Barczak. Maria, how are you today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here today.
What is the best thing about working at the Riverbend branch?
I think that it's the amount of families and children that we get to see. It's been really nice now with the restarting of in-branch programming to get all our familiar faces back and to just be able to play and have fun with kids.
Yeah, so I live over near there, and occasionally on Saturday or Sunday, if I'm doing some grocery shopping, I'll drop some stuff off or pick up holds. And yeah, it's I mean, that parking lot fills up so fast over there, and you just constantly see this stream of families going into that library. So yeah, I think maybe you're the first person we've had on the show who works at a Riverbend. So yeah, I was excited to have you on today.
Wonderful.
So before we get talking about this amazing program that we're doing, kind of connecting with kids and families in Ukraine, let's touch on our recent Overdue Finds. Nancy, you know how this works, so we're going to start with you.
Amazing. So, a overdue find that I have been obsessed with lately is an old title. It's a video game that came out 10, 11 years ago, and I played it the first time around, but I've recently gotten back into it, and it is Skyrim. Elder Scrolls Skyrim. So I think the joke is this game has been ported across so many consoles. It's been, remastered so many times. But I recently actually discovered the amazing world of modding community where there's a lot of custom content created that adds new elements and new stories to the game. It's incredible. Of course, sometimes you get because it's player created. Sometimes I have so many mods it crashes the game, and I have to do the detective one and be like, okay, which mod is screwing up everything up? But it's been real fun to revisit a title that I loved so long ago.
Nice. So are you playing that one on PC then?
I am playing it on PC, although we have it in our catalog in the console version. But actually, the modding community is so intense about this one. There are actually mods for console versions. I'm not sure how that works, but modding's not just on the PC.
Nice. Yeah, it's funny. I don't think I've actually played Skyrim. I know it's got a huge following, and I know. I'm not a big fantasy game person for some reason, but yeah, I do find that cool when I hear about all the different modding that people do. I've seen clips online of people doing similar stuff to Grand Theft Auto 5, so they'll put a DeLorean in and you're driving that around and stuff like that. So yeah, and I always just kind of assumed a lot of that stuff was just done for PC players, but that's good to know though for console players that those options are there. So great pick.
Nancy, is this your first kind of foray into the modding world, or are you coming at it from having experienced it in other games as well?
I have experienced it in other games, but I will say this is the most complex game I've tried to mod. So the other games I've been adding mods has been very easy. You just load them up. But this one, there's a lot of extra frameworks you have to download. So I'm actually really teaching myself a lot about how to troubleshoot and identify errors. So yeah, it's definitely been the hardest game I've tried to play while modded or modified.
What's been maybe the funniest or quirkiest mod that maybe you've seen somebody play with?
My favorite one is the mod that replaces. So Skyrim is a fantasy game. There are dragons. Dragons are a big thing. My favorite mod is one that replaces all the dragons with characters from Thomas the Tank Engine.
Well, looks like I got to start playing some Skyrim now because that sounds really fun. Anna Maria, how about you? Is there what are you into? Is there something that you've been enjoying?
Yeah, my Overdue Find is also a video game. It's not quite as old as Skyrim, but it's a few years old. It's Stardew Valley. So I am a cozy gamer. I like games that are really slow paced and calming and just a nice distraction from my life. So I've been really enjoying that again. I've played it on and off throughout the last few years, but I've recently gotten sucked back into it.
I remember when that game first came out, and we had some staff in marketing who were talking about it and stuff around kind of the old water cooler type chat. And correct me if I'm wrong, but it's kind of I don't want to compare it to Farmville on Facebook, but it's something kind of similar to that, isn't it?
Yeah, so it's like a farming slash like life simulator. So there are like farming components, but there's also like mining and relationship building and fishing, a bunch of things that you could do in real life or from the comfort of your couch by yourself.
Anna Maria, I'm a big Stardew Valley fan. Also a game with an incredible modding community. And don't discount the Orwellian tie-in, because in Stardew Valley, there is this soulless corporation that you can either choose to side with or support the local, economy. And I think there's some dark, anti-capitalist themes there.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's really interesting because it was like independently created by one guy, and he has been the only one that has done most of the work on it. So, yeah, it's nice because it's a little different than your big like Nintendo games, and indie games have come a long way. They're lots of fun, and I like how they are able to have like slight little anti-capitalist tones and kind of delve into that a bit more.
Caroline, do you have a video game pick this week?
Oh, I was desperately racking my brain, but there wasn't even anything. I mean, I could give you all an update on where I am with Best Fiends, but we'll save that for the end of the year. No, my overdue find is the 2004 documentary The Staircase. It's been back in the news because of the HBO miniseries The Staircase, based on the documentary, based on real life, based on the story of Michael Peterson, a man in uh, North Carolina, who in December 2001 found his wife at the bottom of the stairs, and there was blood everywhere, and she was soon pronounced dead, and there were a lot of questions that quickly came about what had happened. And the documentary was this French production that was meant to be a movie, grew into, I think the original documentary is 8 episodes long, and these are lengthy episodes that follow Michael Peterson's defense as they get ready for trial, and how everything happens. It plays out in over real time. Originally, the documentary also followed the prosecution side, but which is like, I can't even think of it now, about like granting filming access to both sides of a trial, and then they how they handled that, and then eventually the prosecution was decided they didn't want to be part of this documentary, so then it shifted entirely to the defense. There are twists, there are turns. I mean, if I had 2 words for it, I would say buckle up. If I had 2 more words, I would say owl theory, which does not come up really in the documentary, but is heavily a part of the story and the HBO miniseries. Now, because there's the fictionalized account of a true life story that's based on someone's life, it's raising a lot of really interesting questions about who owns the rights to one's story, and how that plays out, and what it means to agree to be part of something that then has the potential to be fictionalized, and what that means. It's really interesting. I think it'll raise a lot of questions in the coming years for documentary filmmaking, but it's also just an unbelievable story. So if you haven't seen The Staircase, the original documentary, EPL has it on DVD.
Yes, it's a good one. I've not been able to watch the HBO series yet. I do plan on watching it. Yeah, I watched the miniseries probably about 3 or 4 years ago. I think it was like around the time maybe we started this podcast, and we're talking about true crime quite a bit.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever gone back and forth so much on whether or not I think somebody's guilty or not. Yeah, it's an incredibly well done documentary, and like you said, it is 8 episodes, but
you will like there is a twist in every episode, and some of it, I mean, the trial, Kathleen Peterson died in December of 2001, so we're now 20 plus years out from that. And some of the attitudes that people had, some of the evidence, the common beliefs that they were dealing with at the time are interesting to think about, and how maybe things might play out differently if it was now or not, or just kind of some of the understandings around human behavior may have changed. But I don't know, you can watch it, and like all of true crime, there's an element of, as you're watching it, thinking of like what role you are now playing in this, and the voyeuristic quality, and like you say, going back and forth on someone's guilt. And it's easy to forget that there are real people involved in it, but the documentary filmmakers do such a good job at showing Michael Peterson in particular with like just the broad, he's a man with many different sides to him, and I think they do a really good job of portraying that. Yeah. So what have you been enjoying, Bryce?
Yeah, so my pick this weekend, I don't know if somebody else, one of like if either yourself or one of our other guests have mentioned the show before. I want to say maybe somebody did, but I can't quite recall after 100 episodes.
I do this sometimes too, where I'm like, oh, I can't wait to talk about this, and then I'm like, wait, Bryce talked about it. I got it from him, so I can't bring it back.
But yeah, my pick this week, I noticed we're getting the first season on DVD coming into our collection, so put a hold on it, and that is the TV series Yellow Jackets. I'm not sure if anybody else here has had a chance to watch it yet. Nancy's shaking her head, but yeah, this is a good one. Caroline, I think you'll really enjoy this. So the show follows a high school girls soccer team, and they're on their way to nationals. It's the late 90s when their plane suddenly crashes in the wilderness, leaving them stranded and kind of lost on this mountain. So as viewers, though, we also get to see some of the players as adults, and obviously after they've been rescued or escaped out of there, we see some of them as adults, not all of them. And so as viewers, we get to see them. They're actually being confronted about some things that happened while they were trapped after this plane crash. So some things that they did on the mountain to survive. So the show, I kind of compare it to, it's like a combination of Alive, Lord of the Flies, and Big Little Lies, I want to say. I noticed that rhymed, but that was not on purpose there. The series actually stars Juliette Lewis, Christina Ricci, and Melanie Linsky, who is absolutely fantastic in this show. And most people might probably recognize her from 2.5 Men. But the show's great. It's been greenlit for a second season. And so, yeah, you have some time now to kind of get caught up on the show. I don't know whether or not season 2 has started filming yet, but this is kind of a great mystery / dark comedy. And yeah, Juliette Lewis, by the way, is probably one of her best roles. She's incredible in this series. So, Nancy, you've watched it. Are you a big fan of it as well?
I am definitely a big fan. I think it really, I mean, there are many shows out there that I think display the sometimes vicious and ruthless social dynamics of teenage girls, but this one does it in just this hyper stressful setting. And of course, there's a mystery element, and yeah, highly recommend.
All right, so let's chat about this program here. Nancy, can you tell us a little bit more about what this special program is and how it all came about? Because it's incredible.
Yeah, so this is like truly, truly grassroots. Essentially, what happened, and this was even before EPL got involved, is an organization in Ukraine talked to some educators in Canada, and the real, I would say, the Canadian front man is David Falconer Cole, who is actually in Nineveh. And it just got started as in, like, how can we keep, Ukrainian kids entertained and take their minds off of what's going on in their lives right now? And so David started inviting museums and cultural institutions around Canada to come and do virtual presentations for kids, mainly based in Kiev. It sounds like that's kind of where our Ukrainian counterparts are located. So I know the Mutart in Edmonton got involved. Edmonton Valley Zoo got involved. Other places like the Royal Ontario Museum, the Royal Tyrrell Museum, and then through a connection through community librarian Cassidy Monroe, Edmonton Public Library got involved. I believe we are the only public library in this group, and essentially what it's become is every week, once a week, we get on Zoom and we broadcast live to kids in Ukraine. And again, the goal is to really keep them entertained and help them take their minds off of things that are going on in their lives. So we try to keep things light, keep things fun. When possible, add an educational component. There's definitely a lot of real curiosity from the kids, I think, about what people, across the world are doing, what our lives are like.
And Maria, I know that you have done a lot of different kinds of programming at EPL. Have you ever done anything like this before?
Not exactly like this, but I feel like this is very much a big mashup of different components of programming that I've done. I used to work on the lit vans, and we did a lot of different programming there for seniors and in schools. I actually took the presentation that I used was an older one that I had done for seniors a few years back while I was working on the lit van, and then that is kind of mixed in with the different digital programming that we were able to do throughout the last 2 years here at Riverbend. So I've done a couple of kids' virtual school presentations there. So that kind of tied in the virtual component. But nothing like this, I don't think, ever before. It was truly a wonderful experience.
So what was the kind of topic or the program that you did with the kids?
So I just talked about Edmonton's River Valley system. I wasn't fully sure what I wanted to do, and I figured this would be a nice thing to talk about because it talks about all of the cool different things that we have in Edmonton. So lots of different things like the funicular. I talked about the zoo, Fort Edmonton Park, just the walking trails in general. So it was able to tie back to things that could be familiar with them, but that were interesting and cool to look at. I had lots of like photos and video clips, and then we were able to get some really great conversations going because most of the things related to something that they had like experience with, which was great.
I happened to have the pleasure of sitting in on Anna Maria's presentation, which was only our second one. So we were still kind of like, what's it going to be like? What's going to work? And yeah, I will say the kids were super engaged, and that's been true throughout every program. I think kids are kids and that they want to tell you all about their lives. So people were jumping in, telling you about like the parks they've been to, the things they've done. I find that every single session we've done for them is part like us doing a presentation and talking about something, and then the kids just wanting to tell us about like their pets and like the books they've read and the things they're enjoying.
Yeah, it was really great. I think I did like not even half of my presentation, and we just spent the rest of the time just chatting. We talked about our favorite animals, and our what we were reading, video games that we were playing. It was a really nice way to connect with them, and I think it hopefully was great for them to see that we do want to connect with them and we do want to see how they're doing and like entertain them, but also just let them be them and let them experience normal things in life, and just chat about what is happening and animals, little things.
What have the age ranges been like for those kids participating?
So we have the luxury of every week we send a blurb about what we're doing ahead of time, and we can identify a recommended age range. So when they're doing the promotion among their families, they will target those age ranges. I would say typically we've been kind of most successful in targeting that like 6 to 12, maybe 6 to 14 age range.
Yeah, I think during my presentation, we had a lot of probably like 10 to 14, 15-year-olds, which was great because we were all able to just chat.
Yeah, like I can't stress enough how valuable and how rewarding the social component has been. Now, I don't necessarily know what, has been going on with some of these kids' lives and their days, and I don't know how isolated they are, but they all are very friendly and just really keen to, I think, meet new people and to share, just the minutia of what's going on. Again, we do try to keep it positive. We talk about pets and their favorite foods and things like that. Some of the sessions I've been in, sometimes the topics have gotten heavier, but the feedback that we've got from David Falconer Cole and the other kind of organizers is like, we'll acknowledge the tough topic, but then we'll try to move on. Again, the goal is to kind of provide an escapism. They get enough of a harsh reality in every other aspect of their day.
I think that coming through the pandemic over the last few years, we've really I think we had an understanding before, particularly in libraries, of the importance of connection, and being able to connect with people can fight, isolation, whether that's social isolation, geographic isolation, and just being there to connect with these kids and families is quite meaningful. Absolutely.
Yeah. And it's really lovely because it's also, like, for me, just so uplifting to see how happy and excited they are to just chat. It was really nice. I was very anxious and worried that it was not that I was going to like not do a good job, because I really wanted to make sure that they were having the most positive experience that they could have, and it was way better than I could have ever expected.
Do a lot of these kids on these programs, do they know each other, or like are they kind of chatting amongst themselves about other stuff, or are they just random families kind of sign up for this?
There's not a lot of chatter between each other, so I think this is a widespread of kids across Kiev and surrounding regions. With that said, I think some of them have been coming to these programs long enough that they're actually starting to get to know each other. But I would say they're most
Just like in person, just like that's what
Exactly.
happens at the library.
But I would say they're most eager to talk to the adults. But there is definitely, kid to kid chatter as well.
So, what have been some of the challenges about doing a program for people halfway around the world? Like, what are some of the toughest parts?
Yeah, I can share mine. I thought that internet connection would be an issue, considering the situation they're in. But then I was told Elon Musk and his satellites, actually, the internet around Kiev is the best it's ever been. It's been very, very stable. I'm like, oh, okay. We do occasionally get spam bots, and unfortunately, I'm told Russian hackers. Sometimes there will be a whole stream of what I understand to be Russian in the comments, and the Ukrainian moderator will shut the comments field down. So, that can be challenging. Sometimes from week to week, the program will be canceled, and we're not told why. Again, I think just circumstances beyond everyone's control. And then the last thing I would say is challenging, is so when we're on Zoom, the kids' names, are there, and they're all in Cyrillic. So when someone raises their hand, because I can't read the Cyrillic alphabet, I don't know like what name to call them. I want to be like, yes, you. But anyway, so that's just been a weird little quirk. I'm just like,
Yeah. You in the green shirt. What were you going to say?
Yeah. I want to be able to call them by their name. And then some of them will notice that we're struggling and will actually change it to the Latin alphabet, which, thank you, is very helpful.
I think so. The one session that I did, we had a little bit of difficulty with the timing. So they asked if we could bump the session up an hour earlier, which was great. But I'm not a very big morning person, so I had to be at work for 7:30, which was quite a struggle. And then they had some confusion on their end, so we bumped back to the regular time, which was fine and dandy. But so just the general logistics of being on the other side of the world and being in a different time zone is weird, because when we're up and ready to chat, they are generally not at work, not um, online. So
Yeah, we have the absolute latest time slot in the day for them, which is the earliest I felt that we could get away with here without making everyone come in at like 6 a.m. in Edmonton.
How many hours in advance are they? It's probably what, like 8 or 9 hours at least?
yeah, 9 hours.
What have been some of the biggest surprises or unexpected discoveries from being a part of this?
For me personally was how much the kids wanted to connect. I was just the second session, so I wasn't sure if they would have what they needed to be able to chat with us over Zoom. Like, I didn't know if they would just be using cell phones or what have you. So I didn't think of having a whole bunch of prompts or questions to chat about. But they were very eager to talk and so happy to do so. And I was so happy to be able to connect with them. So just how willing they were to communicate and how happy they were. I know that I was just there for like a brief hour snippet of their life, but they seemed very, very happy and content. And so it was nice to be able to know that we were able to connect and have like a little bit of impact and joy um, shone on their lives because what they're going through is just unimaginable. So it was nice.
Yeah, it's I mean, I know obviously Canada is not a perfect place, but it just kind of makes, I imagine it gives you a chance to really look at our lives here and just realize, at times how lucky we are. And it's incredible to hear about, like, how positive a lot of these kids and families have been, just based on the horrible stuff that we see on the news and we read about online. And yeah, the fact that they're so pumped up to be online and chatting about, I love that, talking about their favorite animals. That's such a kid topic. That's just incredible to me. And yeah, when we're here and maybe we have a slow Wi-Fi connection, we gotta get all upset. We have no reason to really complain.
I would say we've talked about animals. We had in one session a long debate of, if you only could eat either pizza or ice cream for your entire life, which would it be? We did a lot of those. Something that's actually really, and I'm always I think, like, living in Canada, where I would say a lot of people only speak a single language. Maybe that's a generalization. I'm always so impressed by how skillful most of these Ukrainian kids in the call are at English. Like, some of them are very young and speak English like flawlessly. And, and again, I'm just reminded that in large parts of the world, it is normal to be bilingual, trilingual. And, here I am, I can't even read their name in Cyrillic, and they're talking to me in their second tongue. And it's just so, I don't know, it's so impressive.
They're like, "We got you, Nancy.
Yeah.
We'll spell this out for you."
Exactly. They're very patient with us.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, because when we were first going into it, we were told that there would be like translators. So I assumed, like, oh, okay, they won't have a very big knowledge of English, but no, they absolutely were amazing. We had no problems communicating with them.
Yeah, like, there is a translator. Occasionally I run into, if there's like a very complicated English word, the adult translator will jump in. But for the most part, it's like these kids know their English down pat.
I have to ask, like, obviously we don't know how long this will be going on for, and hopefully this sounds obviously such a rewarding program for you to be working on, but hopefully it gets to wrap up soon. I think everybody's kind of hoping for that. But what has been, I guess for both of you, what has been your absolute favorite thing about working on this?
My favorite thing has just been connecting with people. I think that the pandemic has taught me that making any sort of connection is really, really important to me. I spent almost 2 years not being able to make very many connections. So even a brief connection of an hour with someone all the way on the other side of the world it means more to me than I can really explain.
Absolutely. Just the value of connection, connect, getting to meet amazing kids and hopefully, letting them know that halfway across the world, we care, we're rooting for them, we want them to be well, we want them to be entertained, we want them to be kids, to provide opportunities for quote unquote normal childhood where, yes, we debate about pizza and ice cream and dinosaurs and outer space. Another great conversation we had recently was the possibility of terraforming the moon. Yeah, there was one kid who really wanted to terraform the moon, and being able to give them these bright spots in their lives is.
Before we get into roundtable questions, I know obviously both of you work on this program, but there's also other EPL staff who do as well. Do you want to give a shout out to some of our other colleagues who are also working on this one?
I know that Dave Tyler at White Mud Crossing has done a session. I believe he did a puppet session, of course, because he is the puppet master of EPL.
We have Monica Madiford, Dave Tyler, Michelle Rempel, Caitlin Miller, Sean Chinnery, Raina Backstrom, and of course, Anna Maria. So it's a small but dedicated crew.
Great job. And yeah, this is such an incredible program. And I mean, I'm always very proud to, like, if somebody asks me what I do, I'm always very proud to say I work for EPL, but this is a great example of one of the many awesome programs that our talented staff here get to do.
And I think a great example of how important EPL's community connections are, because as Nancy, you said that we're the only library in this, we might not have been an obvious first thought for putting this, being a part of it, but because of the relationships, somebody at some point thought, hey, what about the library? And being able to be part of that conversation is great. So connections just all around on this. Fantastic. Bryce, before we get to today's roundtable questions, can you share with listeners what we're going to be talking about on our next episode coming out on Friday, July 15th?
Yeah, so even though we're just wrapping up Pride Month, it's never too late to chat about some of our favorite queer characters in pop culture. So join us on our next episode where EPL staff will be sharing some of their favorite LGBTQ characters with you. Caroline, I think there's a good chance maybe we'll be chatting about some Waylon Smithers maybe might be brought up on that episode.
I mean, anything's possible.
Who knows?
Yeah. Tune in and find out.
That's right.
So for our roundtable questions today, first one, what fictional character would you like to pair up with to do a kid's story time? Nancy, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I would pair up with Wonder Woman because she's Wonder Woman, but also because having done many kids' story times, if a little kid starts to wander away, she has the lasso and can gently pull them back into the circle. Got to think about those logistics.
I like that. I think you could also probably take a lot of props with you on the invisible plane. So
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, very practical. I love it. Yeah, Anna Maria.
So I've been thinking about this nonstop for the last week, and I think I'm going to go with Amelia Bedelia.
Love it.
Because I think that she would just add a really nice comedic chaos to the story time, which I really enjoy.
I have said this. I don't know that I've said it on the podcast. I've said it on social media. When Amelia Bedelia dresses the chicken for dinner, that is one of the greatest moments in all of literature. I have to say. Yeah. Bryce, what about you?
Oh, this was tough. Obviously, I've never had to do any programs for children before. Closest thing, I think, Caroline, was our episodes where we got to interview kids, which have been some of my favorite ones that we've done, though. I went with Kermit the Frog. I kind of thought like a Muppet would be a perfect, I want to say person. Kermit the Frog would be a perfect person to have with me, but I imagine it can be very challenging sometimes to get kids' attention, and to have like Kermit there as my wingman to kind of corral the kids and really get them to pay attention to the story I'd be reading, I think would be perfect.
Absolutely. I love that. When you see those videos of like kids interacting with Kermit, like there's something that just attracts them.
Oh yeah.
Right away.
Those are amazing.
Mine was similar in the Muppet family, Big Bird, because I think there's some definite like enthusiasm and kind of that childlike perspective, and would just kind of draw attention. And sometimes you want people to know there's a story time going on, and I think a giant yellow bird walking through the library or the park or wherever would attract some attention. So this episode is coming out on July 1st, which is Canada Day. We talked about that. What is one thing you absolutely must have at a Canada Day barbecue? Nancy, I'll start with you.
I love potato salad on a paper plate, heavy on the mayo. I am not for these potato salads. They're like lightly dressed. No. For the barbecue, it's got to be doused in mayo.
Love it. Yeah. Anna Maria?
My first pick was also a potato salad, but my second runner up is a Costco hot dog.
Yeah. Bryce?
I hate to steal from Nancy, but I had potato salad down, and like you can pretty much have any other food. Like if you're barbecuing, hot dogs, hamburgers,
Chicken.
whatever. Chicken, you're doing some pulled pork, whatever. It doesn't matter what meat you have, but a potato salad is the absolute only must thing. So I agree, Nancy. I don't want to see this like potato salad where it looks like there's like a quarter of a potato and it's barely dressed at all. Like I want that thing swimming in mayo. So potato salad's a must. Caroline, it's a potato salad.
I mean, yes, but I'm gonna go with my next answer, which was a large cooler filled with ice, drinks in the cooler. It's been outside, it's half melted, you're trying to find what you want, you dip it in, your hand is freezing, your can is covered in water, you're dripping everywhere. That is the experience I want to have.
Definitely. I could like immediately picture it in my head and feel it in my tips of my fingers.
Exactly, and wet, and now you've got this wet can, but it's okay because it's so hot. You're thirsty. Yeah,
and you got to make sure that cooler is packed correctly as well.
For what is the correct way to pack a cooler? I didn't realize people had opinions on this.
I was out with some friends last weekend, and so my friend told me it's like you need to put with a case of beer was the example being used. Essentially, you put like the actual case of beer with the box in the cooler, but you kind of like open up the box, fill it with ice, and then just like pull the box out.
Like a cooler within the cooler.
Yeah. Apparently that's like the way to do it. So I've not tried it myself, but apparently there's an art form to packing a cooler.
If any listeners want to chime in on this, we are open for cooler packing suggestions. And I'm adding a third question on the fly. I have to. If you can only eat ice cream or pizza for the rest of your life, what is it going to be? Nancy, because you had exposure to this question, I'm going to go to you first while we think about it. If we need to think about it, maybe it's obvious.
I'm team pizza, but in this conversation with the kids in Ukraine, all the kids eventually came around to ice cream pizza.
That's some out of the box thinking right there.
That would be quite something. But my first thought was, does a Trizza pizza count? Like, are we just talking traditional hot pizza with like your sauces and your cheese, or can we branch out and can we have like the Trizza pizza from Dairy Queen? Can we have cookie pizza? Because if so, pizza for sure.
Yeah. Bryce?
Yeah, team pizza for sure. Just because, yeah, and I think the Trizza pizza would count in this situation. It's and I mean, just the pizza in general gives you so many different options to go with toppings, and you do like a breakfast one. And I don't know if everybody else feels this way. Cold pizza is the best, so you get a little bit of variety with a little bit more variety with pizza over ice cream, I'd say. Caroline?
Yeah, I'm also team pizza. Willing to be swayed if there's a strong ice cream answer, but team pizza. Well, thank you for going with me on that random additional question. And thank you both so much for joining us today. This has been so lovely to hear about this program that's happening and the experience that staff are having and that with kids and how everything is going. Is there anything coming up at the library that you would like our listeners to know about, Nancy?
Yeah. So, speaking with my Stanley A. Milner hat on, I want to give a plug to our Friday film program. I think a lot of listeners to this podcast would like it. Every Friday we run a film, and every month we have a theme. June has been Method Acting Month. We have a really great film crew who put together, like, there's a film and then there's this discussion at the end. And July is going to be Martin Scorsese month. I am not a huge film person, so I'm actually just learning a lot and talking to our film crew and helping them prepare their discussion questions. But yeah, come down for method acting and or Martin Scorsese month.
Bryce, we've talked a lot about how you have been working from home for a while. I would not be surprised if in July you found yourself, I just happened to be working here at the Stanley Milner Library on Friday, and I think I need to see someone there's a movie happening. Who knew?
It's funny. Fridays, not to sound like a slacker, I normally do work from home, but July is calling me. So Nancy, if they need somebody for that Goodfellas discussion, I will gladly come in on Friday to be a part of that.
And Anna Maria, is there anything you would like listeners to know about?
July and August are summer. So we've got our Summer Starts at EPL program happening. We have a bunch of really great different class sessions happening throughout the summer all over the city at all of our branches. At Riverbend, we have 2 class sessions a week, along with some of our early literacy programming. So lots of fun stuff happening here. So you should definitely drop by. We also have pretty stellar air conditioning, so it's a great place to take a afternoon break after a bike ride or something like that.
And Bryce, do you have anything to plug today?
I sure do. So we, of course, just heard about Summer Starts at EPL, which is our awesome summer reading club for kids. But we also have one for adults as well. So parents, you can actually read along with your kids this summer, even if you don't have any kids like me and you just kind of remember how fun it was to participate in these summer reading clubs. We've got one for you. It's called Summer Reads. So really, actually right now, you can visit any EPL location to pick up your Summer Reads activity sheet, or you can register online at epl.ca/summerreads. And we're giving away some great prizes, including some gift cards to some amazing Edmonton businesses. So kind of we're supporting local this year. And and I should also mention too, our Summer Reads 22 is brought to you by friends of EPL. So this is going to be a fun one. Caroline, next episode, there's a good chance I might be asking you a question about Summer Reads.
I am ready. I'm ready. And I think you know the answer. But I was going to say that I've started to see on social media, on Twitter specifically, a lot of people posting things like, why don't adults have a summer reading club? Or, well, libraries should do this for adults. Remember how much fun it was? And it's taking like a lot of self-restraint not to just like burst in like Kool-Aid Man style and be like, well, actually, you can join here. But maybe I better start doing that to let people know that there's a lot of fun to be had this summer at the Edmonton Public Library. We hope you've enjoyed today's episode. If you have not subscribed, we encourage you to hit the subscribe button so that you automatically get all of our new episodes. Please also leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. You could leave us your potato salad recipe on Apple Podcasts. We would love that. And most importantly, tell a friend about the show.
Yeah, and don't forget that we'll have a link to everything that we talked about in today's show notes. And as Caroline mentioned, we love to hear from our listeners, whether it be a review that you post on Apple Podcasts, or you just send us an email at podcast@epl.ca, or reach out to us on Twitter at epl.ca and use the hashtag EPL Overdue Finds. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.